Brr. I've been warmer, I'll tell you what. Woke up to a blizzard this morning that turned into sleet. Not much you can do in this weather. Considering I forgot my frickin' rain pants and rain jacket. Can't believe it. I got all my cameras out anyway, but I want to get some cameras out for grizzly bears. There's a big bone pile about a mile that way. I'm going to set some cameras on there and hopefully get a whole pile of grizzly bears on clear video. I think that would be pretty cool. Cool to share too. But anyway, Wi-Fi is very weak, but my buddy's ranch, they got a mechanic shop back there. And I think that's where they have Wi-Fi there, and it's linked up to a little thing in here, but it's very, very weak. So I have to go somewhere else to load this up if it will, if I do. But let's get somebody heard here. A 49-year-old mystery is solved. A 49-year-old mystery is solved. Dear Steve, in September 72, I was an 18-year-old sophomore engineering student who was also hopeful of playing professional baseball. I was way too busy studying engineering, practicing baseball, or working out to even consider joining a fraternity. It was a frat rush week, and I was recruited to attend a rush party and accept the invitation as a favor to a friend who was hopeful of being accepted to the pledge. I didn't drink, but 6 foolish frat boys decided to test me by spitting in a beer and trying to make me drink it. They said they all had to do it. I told them anybody weak enough to do that to gain acceptance into a group is not worthy of my time. After some nasty words and pushing, they threw the tainted brew on me. I defended myself and 3 of them were down, with a warning not to get up, and 3 ran away. I left with no further issues. I probably looked very forward to seeing their frat teams on the various intramural fields throughout the year. All right. Event number 1. The following morning, Sunday at 7 a.m., I went to Giant City State Park, which is a part of the Shawnee National Forest in southern Illinois. I planned a 24-minute, 4-mile conditioning run, which is really tough on an undulating trail. Then I expected to catch enough bass, crappies, and bluegills to feed myself and some friends for lunch or dinner. About 1 mile into my run, a volleyball-sized rock landed 5 feet in front of me. I stopped to see how, who, and why, and where it came from. To my left, there were heavy woods. To my right was a creek and wetlands. After a few seconds of confusion, I continued my run. About 1.5 miles later, another large rock landed in front of me. About 1/2 mile later. Crazy. My mind was racing. I surmised that it must be the humiliated frat boys with water balloon launching slingshots positioned in groups along my running route. I stopped and loudly challenged the cowards to come out and face me. There was no noise and no reply, so I continued my run. A 1/4 mile later, as I neared my turnaround point, it happened a 3rd time. But this one was a much larger rock that shot past my head and landed in the creek. It no longer seemed like a pathetic game, but I was at real risk. I grabbed several river rock stones from the creek bed. I fired 6 stones with a long, audible diatribe of threats at the site closest to the origin of the attack. Suddenly, a tree about 10 yards from the edge of the wooded area started shaking violently. The next thing I knew, I was spinning away from a 3-foot diameter root ball and was knocked down by the branches and foliage attached to it. Somehow these frat boys were able to launch a 25-foot tree at me. No longer a game, I returned to my car at top speed. Over the next decade, I literally lost thousands of hours of sleep and spent hundreds of hours researching catapults, hydraulics, tension actuators, and gear ratios. I was obsessed over what kind of equipment or machine could extract and throw a tree. Event number 2, 15 years later. On an autumn day in '87, I was walking on a restored railway easement with my 2 extremely well-trained German shepherds, about 3 miles south of Lafayette, Louisiana. The Santa Fe Railroad had recently abandoned and restored 180 miles of railroad track that formed a triangle from Houston to New Orleans to Lafayette and back to Houston. I had my dogs on a close walk due to my concern about the danger from the many rattlesnake and copperheads that are common in the area. The dogs were acting very nervous, which was entirely uncharacteristic. Suddenly, a rock about the size of a basketball landed in front of us. Flashbacks, deja vu, confusion, and terror blasted my senses simultaneously while both my dogs were going nuts. This time I knew it wasn't cowardly frat boys and sprinted with my dogs back to my SUV. Confusion and amazement flooded me for days thereafter until I forced myself to put it out of my mind to restore normalcy and my sanity. Event number 3, 33 years later. As a retired engineer slash inventor, I love to travel the United States and I love the outdoors. I never owned a gun, but I totally support the God-given and constitutional rights to own them. I love to fish and frequently try to track animals after fresh snow or morning dew to test my skills and to capture photographs while enjoying nature. Excuse me. I decided to turn my hobbies into a second career to generate income and create tax deductions. I earned my real estate broker's license and did site location work for individuals and corporations throughout the country to identify, evaluate, and find properties that met their specific requests. Some retainer fees, some paid expenses, and some commission work that is lucrative and enjoyable. In October 2020, I identified a 230,000 acre property that provided an outstanding opportunity for my client. I've been on partial retainer with one of the largest lumber companies in America. I placed several smaller properties with them over the previous 3 years, but this property was the epitome of my efforts. It was virgin forest with perfectly sloping topography to facilitate the egress of the felled trees. It had great access to a navigable river to provide easy water transportation to rail and tracking hubs. It was priced at about half of true market value for reasons that I only presumed was limited demand due to the near billion-dollar price. My clients were elated beyond their expectations when the size and specs of the property. With the size and specs of the property. Sorry, I'm butchering a little bit here. We flew a company plane with several company executives over the property to preview lumber values, accessibility, and topographical obstacles. While flying over the site, the plane lost power and began a forced descent with its 6 occupants, including the pilot, in sheer panic. During an extended glide out, the power was restored and we landed safely at a nearby landing strip. After landing, we discovered that all of our cell phones, radios, and even battery-powered watches were all drained of power. We were stranded at the remote landing strip for over 8 hours before a search team found us. We were told that this was a common occurrence, and they hoped the plane regained power in time to land safely. They said all local pilots consider this a no-fly zone. We angrily questioned why we were not informed when we filed our flight plans. The rescue team refused to elaborate or explain any further, but said to ask them, without explaining who, and wouldn't speak any further about the topic. 3 hours of arguing, yelling, accusations, and threatened lawsuits could not evoke any further response, just smirks and sideways glances, which only increased our anger and frustration. The next day, a letter of intent to purchase the property was successfully negotiated, and we had planned to use rented trucks and 4x4s to further tour the property, do some testing, and start the due diligence process. The first roadblock occurred when no equipment rental company would provide the transportation vehicles or needed equipment. It just said that that tract was off limits for the equipment and suggested that we stay out of there. Once again, no supporting reasons or information would be provided. My baffled group of lumber company executives contacted their home office to explain the stone wall. They decided to subcontract and outsource the work to local lumber companies, including the third largest lumber company in the country, with a locally based headquarters only about 15 miles from the property. They were emphatically told there was no interest and that nobody would work anywhere on that property. They even asked if there would be interest in a joint venture operation and were quickly declined. After which time, the local firm admitted that it had its eyes on the property for 25 years. More confusion and continued information freeze. This was the fourth time that knowledgeable local sources refused to explain their comments and warnings. After nearly 2 weeks, we finally found some very reluctant locals to speak off the record. They told us the property was a graveyard of abandoned equipment of all types, and every rescue vehicle also joined the pileup of lost assets. My engineer's mind ran through a gamut of possibilities, from magnetic resonance, directed radio frequencies, magnetic iron deposits, electron bombardment, government weapons, subterranean ionized radiation, and a myriad of other anomalies with potential to drain power. It was the Bermuda Triangle of the Seven Devils Mountains in the Hells Canyon wilderness. None of it made sense to me, but some scary and colorful names for everything in the area. We had complete frustration with the lack of volunteered information, even from local governments, forest rangers, and military personnel. It took a sizable bribe with the promise of secrecy and anonymity, not signed by me, to persuade one local expert to explain that the land was heavily populated with fire-eyed forest people, red-eyed ghillies, Sasquatch, and about a dozen other less kind descriptive names. He reported that there are two competing hostile groups fighting a turf war with each other for over 200 years. He said one group is 12 to 13 feet tall and vicious. The other group is 10 to 11 feet tall and can be invisible. Either group will tolerate humans and will immediately scare them off, or worse. They supposedly use low-frequency guttural bombardment, creating disorientation, loss of time, nausea, and severe head pain to force out interlopers. I suspected government-directed weapon RF devices by military men in disguises. Local out-of-work lumberjacks confirmed they desperately needed work, but this property was absolutely off limits for any amount of money. We were told that even if we procured all necessary equipment and labor from distant sources who were not aware of the problems, neither the equipment nor the lumberjacks would last more than a day. Supposedly, multi-ton pieces of equipment would be turned over, devoid of power and unrecoverable. Very reluctantly, after due diligence over a 75-day period, my client, the multinational publicly traded lumber company, withdrew from further pursuit of the project. At that point, they told me that this story is not that uncommon, and they were forced to abandon other sites and equipment due to the same reasons. When you nearly die in a plane without power and get told it was not uncommon in that area, then I lose a moderate 7-figure commission because of two warring humanoid herds, and get told it's not uncommon, I'm left wondering what is reality. I was furious until my client put things into their proper perspectives. I lost nothing because my money was not earned, since the property presented obstacles that made it unsuitable to meet their needs. However, the lumber company lost about $900 million in lumber profits from an irreplaceable old-growth woodland on a great piece of real estate, with massive future lumber cuts every 2 decades, along with multi-million-dollar liberal fantasy accounting magic climate credits annually. I was told that all the national forests, state parks, and many military installations were created by age-old agreements with these humanoids to provide safe harbor and safe migration routes. I was not sworn to secrecy nor bound by non-disclosure because nobody would believe me anyways. So if I talk, I am the crackpot. Although my 49-year-old mystery has been explained to my mind's satisfaction, I may now lose sleep over a much bigger mystery, one for which you frequently express disdain. Why the hell the existence of these dangerous beings hidden by governments, military corporations, local communities, and law enforcement? People are going to die because of these cover-ups and secrets, especially since planes, phones, watches, and computers all lose power for some unknown reason. My own life was in severe jeopardy on 2 occasions as a direct result of these government cover-ups. The first time by me being hit by a flying tree. The second time by me hitting a tree encompassed by a powerless plane. I have recurring nightmares from that second event, knowing we are all going to die in a crash. I refuse to allow my lifelong obsession drive for facts to pursue this topic, and for the first time in my life I accept the unbelievable without question or visual confirmation. I've told several individuals of the most recent experience, and none have ever laughed or jeered me. I'm not the kind of guy you abuse, as the frat boys learned nearly 5 decades ago. Even at 69 years old, I'm still too big, too reputable, and way too mean to be subjected to disrespect, at least to my face. Besides, I have all the lodging and expense receipts, detailed activity logs, fully executed. LOL. Commission agreements. LOI? Sorry. Commission agreements, written dispositions, preliminary engineering studies, topos, aerials, FAA incident report, and termination letters in 5 file folders. 5 file folders. Each over an inch thick to prove it all. Good luck, and please continue your journey to get the facts of the people. Sanity, safety, and survival all depend upon truth and trust. How different my life would have been. Not worse, not better, just different, if I knew these beings existed in 72. You're changing lives, Steve. Yours truly, Robert. All right, and then I got a PS just for me. I'll read that in a second. That's a handful, man. And good for you having all that documentation to back it up. And I don't know what you plan on doing with it. I know Edgar's going to be sending me, a couple other people are going to be sending me some items that are similar to yours. I wonder if it should all be compiled into some kind of a book to be accessed by the public. I wonder if that would be an idea. I don't know. That's a very, I don't believe I've read about that area previously, but it sounds like there's many people that know of it. And I wonder if you sharing what you just shared would knee-jerk compel other people to email us in and chime in, or at least do it in the comment section below or whatever. That'd be very interesting, because all the points you made about the facts that are going on in there have been made before, previously, from numerous people who aren't connected, right? It's something else. It's something else for your average human brain to even attempt to take in and think about, where most people just go, yeah, right. Right? It's shitty though, isn't it? It's shitty that we have that in us. A lot of people have that in us. We have it in us to just laugh and shrug off and carry on to go watch a football game and have a beer and not give a shit about much, right? It's weird. It's weird to me, I find lately too, as I observe people, watch people of all different types of flavors, how many people just don't give a shit about much. It's really weird for me to observe. I'm not upset about it. It's just more amazement, right? Like I've said it before, I'm more amazed at people at times, just watching people, observing how they react and how they think and how they carry themselves. It's really freaking weird to me sometimes to see. And a lot of these people I know, they're very intelligent, successful people, but they just don't give a shit about much of anything. Really. It's kind of odd. They're just content to just glide through this one-time ride and basically live a repetitive existence and not do much else and not seek out much more knowledge and not even have any interest or curiosity to it. It's kind of bizarre for me to watch. But anyways, me, I can't get enough. And if you have, I absolutely appreciate you sending that into us. And if you have any more you want to throw down, email me anytime. All right, I want to soak it all up. I want to learn every single thing you and many other people have learned. And who knows, maybe even all your documentation. I wonder if that'd be worthy to share somehow one day, or some of it. I don't know. Only you will know. It's a crazy lifetime, isn't it? Isn't it a crazy lifetime? Especially when you start digging and wanting to learn more. Then it gets so frickin' interesting, right? And alarming. Scary. I'm in. I wonder if I got a short one I can tack onto here. Let's have a look. If not, because I'm having troubles loading stuff where I am, it's just not happening. But I may figure something out later on and get some of these loaded up before I get home. You never know. Either way, I'll either talk to you guys later or I'll add on another one. All right. Got one more short one I'll tack onto this one. Hello, Steve. This is really two things. I live in Utah around American Fork Canyon. Coming down the canyon Officer, Officere, night just before dark. My wife and I saw what looked like a bear climbing up the side of a hill. A few days later, I was fishing that area and noticed the hill was so steep I couldn't climb without a rope. I looked back at the road and noticed it was approximately 500 yards. No bear, black bear, would be seen at that distance. About a week later, we were up the canyon overlooking a lake. My wife looked at me and asked me if I felt something weird, and I said, yes, I did, like something's watching us. She wanted to leave, so we did. But I have felt that same way in my home. But I have felt the same way in my home ever since then. I think I know why. I don't know what to do about it. I also keep seeing white balls of light float around my place. Any hints as what to do? Jim S. No, not even a happy hint. Not from me. Somebody else might, though. I am not familiar with the balls of light. I videotaped them once, showed you guys, and that's all I got. Except for what everybody shares here with us, right? So, but again, that was in Utah, American Fork Canyon. All right? So if anybody else around there, I'm sure if you've heard of or seen something like this, similar, or worse, or more, or whatever, you're probably watching this. And if you are, and you want to chime in what you got from there, drop it in the comment section below, right? Or if you got something lengthy you want to get off your chest, you can email me with it. Email us with it, I should say. It's a very, very big group effort here. Now, all these other emails I have lined up right now are all like small books. And it seems that when I load onto YouTube with my phone, about a 30-ish minute video is about all I can get out, and where it will handle loading on YouTube. But unless I get some kind of a better connection somewhere, we'll see. Maybe I will today, maybe I won't. But either way, I gotta get on with the day. I might be letting up a little bit. I gotta get my grizzly camera set out. That's gonna be good. I'm gonna videotape how I do it too and show everybody. Make it more interesting for when I finally do show the end results of monster grizzly bears. I'll be back. There's nothing warm going on here. Oh, here comes the dog. Dog thinks I'm talking to it. Take it easy there, you big savage. Come over here. Come over here. Okay, sit down. Sit down. Oh, such a big dog. Oops. Got the GoPro balanced on my tripod. All right, hold on a minute. I'm gonna read you a story, all right? I know. Hold on a second. So I looked at the forecast. It's snow and rain for the next week, and I can't stay that long. Got things to do. But I'm gonna have to go to the next town to find some rain gear so I can keep doing what I want to do out here. Don't touch that camera. Come here. Hey. And maybe I can find some good strong Wi-Fi to load one of these videos up on there. Come here, sit. Now in the meantime, listen to this. This is titled, "It Killed My Dog." How common is that? Okay, you better want to listen to this one. I've emailed you in the past with a couple of my experiences, but I've been reluctant to message you with this one. Please don't use my name, just call me CH, because I don't want to be contacted by any ass clowns in suits. I live in Idaho and have been an avid hunter for many years, and I've ran into these Sasquatch before. It was 2 years ago, to the day that my last encounter happened. Me and my good friend of mine were up bear hunting about 45 minutes from my house. We had taken both of our dogs with us. My friend has a chocolate lab and I have a blue heeler. While we hunted, we put the dogs in the back of the truck like we have done dozens of times and knew that they wouldn't jump out and follow us. We grabbed our packs and rifles and hiked up the road from the truck, which was a slight curve to it, which has a slight curve to it, about 50 yards from the truck. After you get around the bend, oh, sorry, typo. After you get around the bend, you can no longer see the truck. It was a bright, sunny morning. We had maybe made it about 100 to 150 yards from the truck, which we could no longer see when we heard both dogs barking and growling. We thought the dogs had gotten into a fight. We were skeptical because these dogs had been around each other for about 3 years. We turned around and started back for the truck. As we came around the bend, we saw a black, hairy animal reaching into the bed of my truck. First I thought it was a black bear until I yelled at it, and it stood up straight and turned to look at us. It was 9 feet tall and about 750 pounds, and it was pissed. It had my blue heeler in its right hand by the throat. It was obvious at that point that she was dead, and that my buddy's dog was still barking and growling from under the toolbox in the bed of my truck. I don't know why or even really remember doing it, but I had lifted my rifle and put a 165 grain slug into the center of its chest out of my 30-06 rifle. When I shot it, it took a step back and dropped my dog. And that's when I heard my buddy's 300 Winchester short mag go off and watched the dirt fly off this thing's chest a second time. It fell back into the side of my truck, denting the rear quarter panel. Out of instinct or habit, I don't know, I cycled the bolt to my rifle and I shot it again. Everything seemed to be in slow motion, me and my buddy shooting, and it falling into the truck. This seemed like hours, not seconds. Anyway, at this point, it had 3 bullets to the chest. This thing pushes off my truck and in one step is off the road and into the buckbrush. We both stood there for a second and were in shock about what we had just saw and done. Every sense was on high alert. I've had these Sasquatch throw rocks at me and heard them running through the brush, but nothing like this. We worked our way to the truck after what we had topped off. We worked our way up to the truck after we had topped off the ammo in our rifles and assessed the damage. I was pissed and scared at the time, and I'm not afraid to admit it. That son of a bitch had killed my dog, but was able to get away with three slugs in its chest. We didn't get brave and go look for it in that buckbrush. We gathered up my dog and got the hell out of there. My friend and I have only spoken about this occurrence one time and what happened. This situation really opened both our eyes to what's going on around us. My buddy and I still hunt, but neither of us have been back in there to hunt that area since. If you want to know more details, email me back. I have no problem giving you details, but all I ask is please don't use my name. Thanks for taking the time to read this, and I hope it finds you and your family in good health. Keep your powder dry and shoot straight. CH. Holy shit. That's a holy shit one. Did you say how long ago this was? All right. I mean, you've been in hunting. I mean, you know as well as I do how far a big game animal can run from anything that weight and up, right? I mean, I've seen moose take a freaking beating and shot in all the right places, right? We've all seen elk shot in the right place and go for freaking miles. And I know a lot of you aren't hunters, you don't want to hear about this shit, but they could possibly relate to this incident and trying to make sense of it. Now listen to this. When it comes to hunting and shooting grizzly bears, and this is a fact, and all you guys out there that are familiar with grizzlies know this, if a grizzly bear gets adrenalized, you can literally blow its heart apart and it's going to keep on going for a long time. It's really bizarre. It's eerie. But it's a fact. I have heard of grizzly bears getting shot right where it should get shot and having a lung completely blown out of it and still be in fighting mode the next day. All the old time, I'll never forget one old time guide that I know who lived up north of Toad River said, where he flew me into the Northwest Territories or fishing in a rented canoe from a remote Indian village, and I'll never forget him saying, "Oh man, if you mess up on a grizzly bear, it just gets worse and worse and worse. So anyway, I hope I got that across clear enough so you can understand that the fact that this thing sucked up all that lead in its chest doesn't mean that it's absolutely bulletproof, okay? Because there are other known game animals that can do the same thing. That's what I'm trying to get across to you guys, all right? We have heard rumors of people saying that the only place to kill them cleanly is in the armpit with a shot or in the head. And apparently some people have claimed that their chest is almost like a steel plate. I don't know for a fact. It's just what I've had emailed in numerous times. How they know this, I don't know. But anyway, man, I hope I can remember to contact you again once I get out of here. I got so many people I want to contact, and I just don't get the time yet, and I really want to do it when I get the man cave set up so we can talk. I don't know if that was recent or not, but as an idea, I don't know, maybe get at least 6 people, 5, with some heavy caliber weapons and a couple dogs, and do a great, big, huge, maybe 300-yard circle with the dogs around where that thing went in. But I got a funny feeling if you did dump it and it did go off and die, that probably its buddies probably came and found and drug it off like they normally do, right? Who knows? I don't know. That is one hell of a frickin' experience. What a frick to go and kill the dog. I don't know why they hate dogs. They hate them, on the average. Not saying all of them, but they sure have killed a lot of dogs, haven't they? It's a shitty deal. I don't know why. I really don't know why. But we all know that dogs are absolutely terrified of them, right? There you go. And they kill dogs. So I guess that goes hand in hand, right? Yeah, if you want to email me more about that one, man, go ahead and do it, all right? Especially so, just do it if you can. Email me more about that. And be careful out there, right? Be careful. I mean, there are rumors out there that once you pull that on them, they get you back. Apparently. I don't know. I haven't done it yet myself. Would I have done the same? Yeah, I don't even have to hesitate for a second. I was coming back to my truck and my dog was in the truck and one of these things had by the neck. Game on. They started it, right? Game on. Without a doubt. I'm shooting you. I'm going to put a hole in you. All right, moving along. I'm so happy to have a place to tell my stories. Excuse me. I'm hoping this is short. Please, no name. First, I want to say I'm so glad you're doing this for all of us that need a safe place to share our stuff without fear. I've been holding out onto this one for a while. When I was 10, my grandpa had told me about the barefoot tracks coming out of our backyard, our back 40, and walking across the pasture along a cow path. Just the way he looked at me made me think he might have seen more than tracks. The only time he made mention of Sasquatch was when I needed a bath. To put the tracks in perspective, our back 40 was new growth briars, sprouts, and grapevines so thick the few times I followed my dad in there, he had to cut a trail. And even though I had the freedom to go anywhere, I never would go back there for sure. I would get lost. My grandma was half Sioux, and she let me go anywhere in the woods as long as I could see her house. I'd climb a tree and get my bearings. I'm trying to get my perspective. I've always been most comfortable in the woods. I'm able to lay down any place and get a good night's sleep. However, the screams of a Sasquatch have scared me badly. My parents, grandparents, great aunts, and aunts' property joined together for a couple of miles, and I roamed freely as I wanted. I'd heard a few incredibly loud screams when hunting and smelled it, but didn't see one. However, I definitely would feel uncomfortable in a couple of places. About 20 years ago, I moved out to the family farm with my new wife and our 3 boys. We hadn't lived there for long, and she said her and her boys were seeing a ninja dressed in all black darting from tree to tree, cutting across our drive. I'm very confident they were seeing a Sasquatch. After a few times, they'd come to realize that they were not seeing a person. I told them that it's an animal from the time and not anything else. Now, there's a very wide packed path through the thickest brush where it's been crossing for years. In the last few years, it's been taking the neighbors' sheep occasionally and ripping their throat out. Also, about 25 years ago, we had a blind calf that was in a small pasture in front of my parents' house. He was about 450 to 500 pounds, born blind and very well adjusted to the pasture in front of the house. One night, Something took one swipe and ripped its shoulder off and broke the poor thing's neck. Dad knew when it happened because our fearless stock dog was whimpering and laying against the door, terrified of whatever it was. The trail that goes across my drive is plain to see across the pasture where the calf was killed. No meat taken out of the calf at all. I'm pretty sure that Sasquatch did it because it was in the trail. The calf is only 60 yards from the front door. Where the trail goes in my great aunt's woods is where I was screamed at when my best friend was deer hunting with me. I heard it about half a mile away, and 5 minutes later it was right on top of us. I don't use a light deer hunting, and we had a good hour of dark left. We both backed up against the tree we were next to and stayed there, guns ready till we could see good. I'm sorry for taking so long, but I feel like this being has been around for a long time, and maybe older than I am. I'm almost 60 now. I'm hoping to get a camera set up above that old drive to see if there's a bear using the trail occasionally too. There's a couple of scent rubs on the trees. They're about 4 to 5 feet and oily on 6-inch diameter trees. I have no desire to smell them, but no claw marks or bites. So maybe Sasquatch is leaving a scent marker. I'm sorry, but I have no one else to tell. No name, please, but 100% no BS. I'll be on, grateful for your channel. God bless you and your family and animals too, and stay safe. And you stay safe too. Now listen, if you feel there is an oily residue on a tree from a rub tree, it's not from a bear. And it might, just for shits and giggles. I mean, I do not give a shit about the DNA anymore myself. I don't care. We know these things are around. I shouldn't say I don't care about the DNA. I'd like to hear the honest truth about it, where you have had it promised to be delivered to us. But if you feel curious enough, and if that tree's still there and it still has the oily texture to it, maybe, possibly, don't touch the oily part, and take a sharp hatchet or a good knife and chip off a chunk of bark. Chip off the bark around the oily substance and put it in a plastic bag and don't touch it. And get a hold of me. And we'll see where an appropriate place would be to get it to and see what they can make of the oily substance, right? Because there have been numerous people in the past who have reported their fingerprints being oily. It's kind of gross, right? But it'd be interesting to see what could be made of the oily substance. And it sounds like you possibly have a handful of it readily available. Maybe try that. And no, I'm not going to share your name. And then get back to me and email me back with thoughts on that. All right? Anyway, I got the quad strapped in properly again. I'm going to bug out of here, and I'm going to go find some rain gear and possibly find somewhere with some good, decent Wi-Fi and get some of these videos out and share it to you guys while I'm up here. Crazy, man. It's endless. sharemystory@howtohunt.com. That gets your experiences or your concerns in. Something off your chest, all right? Knowledge for the people is what I'm after. Be back.